that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder hope gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Energy Week with George Harvey and Tom Fennell, the famous Tom Fennell.
In the flesh.
In the flesh.
Autographs after the show.
Okay. And every day I go to the internet and find what I can of the news of climate change and global warming. And whatever I find that's interesting, I post on my blog, which is geoharvey.wordpress.com, geoharvey.wordpress.com. And I put up 10 to 15 items every day. And spend a lot of time looking at news articles. I think I look at about 300 a day, just the headlines, don't read them all. And based on the best materials that we have from last week, we make this show and bring it to you.
And if anybody is interested in any of the things we talk about, go to the blog and click on it, and the original article will come up.
Why didn't I say that?
And some of these articles are really in depth. Some of them
are pretty good.
I mean, they're too big to talk about on a show.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. So anyway, ready to go. Our first item this week, because we record on Thursday mornings, and so we start from the previous Thursday morning. Our first item this week is from Clean Technica, and it is this. Enel Green Power and mini-grid technology provider PowerHive are partnering on developing solar-powered mini-grids in rural Kenya. The $12 million project will involve work in 100 different villages in Kenya, with 93% of the financing coming from Enel Green Power and 7% from PowerHive. And you know, it's interesting to see that electricity is coming to a village like the one that's on screen right now.
that's amazing.
But it's coming to 100 of them.
Yeah.
On the basis of a $12 million investment. I wonder how much it would cost to get a transmission line to just one of those villages.
Far more than what they're paying just to set up the microgrids.
Yeah.
These guys are jumping 100 years forward into the future from where they are.
Yeah.
In a matter of months.
And without all kinds of technology.
Well, the next thing is all of these mini microgrids will be connected into a grid, but it's not going to be a grid of the scale that we're used to in America.
Right.
And it's really the grid of the future.
It's the grid of the future, I think. This is, and you know, if only we can do what they're doing in Kenya, if we can only replicate that in the United States. So anyway, on we go, I guess. SolarFest, one of Vermont's longest-running celebrations of solar power and renewable energy, will be calling the Southern Vermont Arts Center in Manchester a home for its annual 3-day festival this coming July. Exciting news.
That's an outdoor venue.
That's an outdoor venue, and it's one of the most popular things going, and it didn't occur last summer because they used to do it on a farm.
Yep.
And
they sold the farm or something.
I don't know what it was.
There was some kind of a problem.
There was a problem with the farm. They were told that they couldn't do it there anymore. SolarFest has been a platform for renewable energy advocates, vendors, and artists for 20 years. This is from the Manchester.
It's always worthwhile going over there and spending a day. It's
wow.
A day well spent.
It is. You could spend 3 days at
sure.
SolarFest, and they have things going on constantly. They have presentations.
No, all sorts of presentations, but just wandering around and talking to the vendors.
Absolutely. And you occasionally have the opportunity to talk to people who are really exciting. Okay, our next item
right along.
From Business Recorder says TransCanada, don't put that on yet.
No.
That's for the one after this.
That's the next
TransCanada will sue the U.S. government for $15 billion U.S. For blocking its controversial Keystone XL oil pipeline linking Canada with the Gulf of Mexico. TransCanada said the denial of a permit to complete the pipeline, quote, was arbitrary and unjustified, end quote. Exceeded.
Look at that. Hey, if the TPP comes through, they won't have to sue. It'll just be given to them.
Yeah, right. According to TransCanada, it exceeded the president's constitutional powers. This is from Business Recorder You know, in order for that thing to come in, it had to have State Department approval.
Yeah.
And that being the case, I don't think it exceeded the president's authority.
Well, I think he did it with State Department approval.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. So that was from Business
Well,
Recorder.
the takeaway here is environmentalists have assailed the project and the move to sue, arguing that Alberta's deposits produce some of the dirtiest crude in the world. All of that's true.
Well,
And right now, it costs more to get it out of there without this pipeline
yeah. Well, that's true.
than they can sell it
The
for.
price of oil yesterday went below $30 a barrel.
Below 30.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just
Gas is coming
for a
down
moment.
again, guys.
Yeah, and in order to make money out of this oil in Alberta, the price of oil has got to be upwards of $75 to $95 a barrel. So they can't make money on it.
They're
But
a
if-
long time away from making money.
But the other thing is, you know, I'm writing an article for Green Energy Times on pipelines and leaks and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Actually, it's because
Something we got to be worried
because of
about.
the next article, as a matter of fact,
Yeah.
that we're going to be talking about.
Well, let's move around
and
and talk about it.
But the point is, the number of leaks that we have is outrageous.
We don't hear much about
We
it.
don't hear much about them, but they occur on a daily basis. And somebody at a university or MIT perhaps in the Boston area did a complete study of Boston roads. And they had a sensor on a car, and they drove over all of the roads in Boston, which is about 780 miles. Guess how many leaks they found?
17.
3,300.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, we don't hear about it
We don't hear about
unless
it.
there's a fire.
That's right.
Otherwise, it's just polluting the atmosphere, but nobody cares about
Yep.
that.
Somebody checked their work afterwards and discovered, no, they were wrong. It wasn't 3,300, it was 4,000. So anyway, moving right along, here we are
Yeah, let's get this guy up.
to January 8th. You know what?
What?
I'm sorry, it isn't January 8th. It is still Thursday, January 7th. California Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency Wednesday for the Porter Ranch area in the wake of the ongoing gas leak from a facility in Aliso Viejo in Southern California. The massive leak began in October and was prompted the relocation of thousands of households from the area. This is from Inland Empire News. And I have to tell you,
This is a very big leak.
this is not only a very big leak, but it's causing very big problems for very wealthy families.
Now that's interesting. You can't really discomfort the wealthy.
No, you can't. The average family income in the area where this leak happened was upwards of $115,000 a year.
Oh,
So
okay.
these
These aren't poverty-stricken folks.
these are not poverty-stricken folks, and thousands of them have been moved out. And the more you get into this, the more disturbing it gets. This was reported because a fellow flying over the area with a methane detector in an airplane detected too much methane.
He saw a great big black cloud because of his particular instrumentation.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
And he flew over this thing in an airplane and got sick from from the smell. What's going on here? And he had been contracted months before to fly around various parts of California.
Looking for just this?
They happened to send him to this location.
Yeah.
And the people in the company had been going around to the local households and saying, I know there's a smell, but we're getting it. We're working on it. And now they're saying they won't be able to fix this thing maybe until March.
Well, what they say here is what's leaking.
Yeah.
More than 80,000 tons of methane have leaked so far.
Yeah.
That's equivalent, according to them, to roughly 750 million gallons of gasoline,
Yeah.
or nearly 2 million cows burping.
All right. I wonder how many of our viewers have ever been around cows. I got to tell you, if you think about the belches that might come out if from college fraternity guys, trying to come up with the best belch at a contest, It's nothing compared to what a cow does. Believe me, they spend about a third of their time belching. They belch up, on average, each one, about a pound of methane a day.
Wow.
This is a lot of methane.
Yeah, it's a lot of methane.
And if you ever hear about cow flatulence, that's what they're actually talking about.
It's not flatulence at all. It's
No, it's flatulence is just
but the
emitting
belching
gas.
is what.
That's flatulence. Belching is a type of flatulence.
I'll take your word for it.
Okay. I'm an expert on flatulence. Oh, well. Maybe I should shut up and go home. But this is another thing, too, is the place where they've got this stuff is in an abandoned oil well. It's about 18,000 feet underground. 8,000 feet underground. And they pump it down there through 61-year-old pipes into this cavern.
So this isn't naturally coming from the earth. It's been pumped down
It's
there.
been pumped down
and
there.
Now it's
it is
leaking out.
under 2,700 pounds per square inch of pressure.
That's why it's coming out.
That's why it's coming out. That is about a quarter of the pressure that is produced in the chamber of a shotgun when it goes off.
Wow.
This is a lot of
That's
pressure. Okay. So anyway, maybe we should now go to the next item. Should we?
Why not?
Okie dokie.
Let's see what it is.
German, this is from C News Renewables. German wind power generation jumped from 57.3 terawatt hours in 2014 to 86 in 2015. That's from 57.3 to 86. Renewables met 32.5% of Germany's power needs last year, up by more than 5 percentage points from 2014. That's a lot of growth.
Well, the graph tells it all. Look at how
Whoa.
fast it's growing.
Yeah, onshore wind farms produced 39% more year on year, while offshore wind farms were multiplied by 5.
That looks like it's on the low end of an exponential curve.
Yeah, it does. Of course, part of the problem that you've got here is that the curve is going to start tapering off as it gets higher, because you can't go above 100%. But it's interesting to see this curve. Why don't you put that back on, Tom, and we could talk about that for a second. The chart, I'm sorry to say, is in German, but it's not too difficult to understand. The yellow on the top there is photovoltaics. And that you can see the growth, which really kind of started to take off around 2006 to 2008. Right below that, and you can only see it in the last year, is a kind of a dark blue sliver, which is offshore wind.
Oh, that's offshore wind.
Yep.
Okay.
The lighter blue below that is onshore wind, which has grown a lot.
Oh, the biomass is the next one.
Biomass is the next one down. And I find the biomass somewhat disturbing, to tell you the truth, because they're burning trees. That does not make sense to me. You've got a way of sequestering carbon and you're burning it in order to prevent carbon from going into the atmosphere. This does not make sense.
Well, supposedly it regenerates itself as you plant new crops.
Yeah, and it'll regenerate faster if you let the...
A lot of the biomass they're burning is crop residue.
Yes, you're right, Tom. But they are also burning large amounts of tree.
Yeah, American trees.
American trees that come from the south. And the southerners, have, and then the bottom area there, which is...
That's Wasserkraft.
That's Wasserkraft, which is hydropower. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, that's what we've got for that. Our next item, it came from Clean Technica. A massive report suggests a framework on how the U.S. can get to 100% renewable energy sources by 2050. 100% clean and renewable wind, power, and sunlight, all sector roadmaps for the 50 United States. That's the name of the report. Should I repeat it or just forget?
Roadmap? Yeah.
Okay.
No, don't repeat it. Too many words.
It suggests that this is possible even within 35 years, and it also says what 100% renewable energy in the U.S. would consist of. And if you want to...
I got the list.
You got the list? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
30.9% onshore wind.
30.9.
19.1 offshore wind.
Okay.
30.7 utility scale photovoltaics.
Right.
7.2% rooftop photovoltaics.
Yep.
7.3% concentrated solar power with storage, which is going to, I think you're going to see a lot of that in the future because of the storage aspect.
Yes.
1.25% geothermal. Well, they could get better than that.
They could.
0.37% tidal or wave, and 3.01% hydroelectricity,
And
which
you
has
know
probably
what?
been there a long time.
Is there anything else on the list?
Coal?
Coal ain't renewable. Biogas is not on the list.
No, it's not. Right. They
And
didn't mention it.
that's so important. People should understand this. You know, we've got about 300 biodigesters in the United States on farms.
cow power.
It's cow power.
Yeah.
And
they got cows over there.
they got cows.
And they
there,
burp.
there are cows. Well, not only that, but they poop, and the poop goes into a biodigester, and
Yeah.
that makes methane.
Yeah.
And then you can take that methane and make electricity out of it, and take the compost from the biodigester and
Compost your fields.
put it in your fields or
And they smell better than what they're doing now.
yes, indeed. And you know, I've mentioned the thing that my son worked on in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where they're taking sewage, city sewage in Kenosha, and making the instead of having a sewage treatment plant that costs a lot to run, they have a sewage treatment plant that provides
That makes
100% of its own power
Yeah.
by burning the methane that are produced in its biodigesters, and then it's got this certified Class A EPA fertilizer that it sells, which had been at one time or another mostly made up of human poop, but it's been processed to the point where there's nothing alive in it. It's actually been pasteurized.
Well, this really is the wave of the future. I mean, we will look back at this time and say, you know, back in those days, they threw things away.
Yes, right. Well, this is true, and I think, but I think the point that I'm making, we have 300 biodigesters. The USDA says that we could have 11,000. How many we could have at municipalities, I don't know, but my guess is that we could have more biodigesters for municipal waste than we've got municipal waste treatment plants. The Chinese,
At least one for one.
yes, the Chinese have got millions of biodigesters operating at people's homes,
Yeah, you've mentioned that.
where the people use their own waste, which could be their poop or it could be the agricultural food waste, so forth, that they have, and they process that into methane, which they capture,
Which they use.
and cook with.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, this is stuff that, yeah, okay. Maybe we should go on to something else. Okay. Our next item comes on Saturday, January 9th, and it came from Wind Power Engineering. The world's largest operational offshore wind farm, the London Array, has set a new record for power generation by an offshore wind farm. December 2015 saw its 175 turbines generate 369,000 megawatt hours of electricity, beating the previous record of 317,000 megawatt hours set the month before. The capacity factor for the month was 78.9%. And when I saw that, I thought, is that for real? I mean, we're
Well,
accustomed.
it is unusual, but it is also for real. I mean,
Yeah.
they did have a tremendous amount of wind in the
So those
UK.
turbines were just going
They
and going
were
and
just
going.
going and going.
Yeah. And the reason why I asked myself, is that for real, is because I've seen, I'm accustomed to thinking of wind turbines having capacity factors that are in the range of 35% to 40% onshore, higher offshore, and in some wind farms they've actually got up to about 50% or even more.
Or more. We've heard
But-
of some that were more.
Yeah, but this is 78.9%, and then, you know, I
That's
thought
not
about,
too shabby.
not too shabby. I thought about this for a brief time, and I said, yes, it's only 1 month. What happens, you know, during summer when the winds are not as powerful?
Well, it calms down some.
Calms down their capacity factor. We know one thing: it never drops below zero.
Good point.
I read an article not too long ago. In fact, I think we may have talked about it on the show about a maintenance company that was so proud because it had available power
Yeah,
from
yeah,
wind
yeah.
farm
We did.
98%
Yeah.
plus of the time. So anyway,
Well, when the wind halts in Britain, in the summertime.
Yeah.
All the Brits get out in their rowboats and they,
Is that true? I didn't know.
I got to
man.
stop drinking for breakfast. It's only coffee, guys.
It's only coffee. Coffee will do that to you.
It will. It has.
Yes, right. Okay. Anyway, we did have a picture of the London Array up there, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Okay,
yeah.
we did. All right.
You want to see it again?
No, well, I really like that picture, to tell you the truth, because it has such nice colors in it.
Yeah, it is a kind of a pretty
It's
picture.
a pretty picture. That is the London Array, and of course, the London Array. I don't know how much of it you can see from land, but there it is. It's in the Thames estuary, but the Thames estuary is so wide.
It's pretty big, yeah.
At its mouth. That
Yep.
I don't know how much of this is visible. Anyway, the next thing, and I've already lambasted the screen with a photograph of something that's
There
coming
it
up
is.
after. No, this
Oh,
is
that's the next one. Okay.
Tom Vilsack. This is from BurlingtonFreePress.com. Tom Vilsack, Secretary of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, went to Vermont to announce a $46 million program funded by his agency to support energy efficiency investments in the state. The Vermont Energy Investment Corporation will administer the loans to homeowners, small businesses, and towns.
This is a good thing. It's
This
the
is
largest program of its kind in the country today.
You know,
And it's all about money. I mean, they're lending you the money to get into this business.
Right. We have so many opportunities in Vermont as residents
We do.
to get assistance of one kind or another. The VSECU is one. NeighborWorks of Western Vermont is another. Green Mountain Power has got programs that it's affiliated with. There's a lot going on in Vermont, really a lot.
There's no excuse to not do it.
Yeah, absolutely. You are going to save money if you find out how to save. How to save money, how to save fuel. Really, that's what it comes down to. Okay.
Well, the only thing that's preventing it really is inertia.
Inertia.
Yeah.
People don't understand that they can save money by going to solar power.
Yeah.
And this is
It used to be you couldn't afford it, but now with programs like this, anybody can afford it.
the first time I
It's
started.
coming out of your electric bill,
Yeah. There you go.
which is lower than it used to be.
Which is lower than it used to be. And there are so many ways of saving money using solar power, and they're just available. So let's see. Our next item comes from PV Magazine, still on Saturday, January 9th. I was going to say.
Yeah, you
November.
jumped ahead two items, didn't you?
Did I?
Yes, 4 items.
4 items?
Three items,
What did I
okay.
miss?
Well, the one you're doing now, and then the next one we're back to Jerry Brown.
Oh, the solar.
The solar pictures from
The
North
solar,
Carolina.
yeah. Well, the pictures that I've got are just in the order that they come up. So when I push the button, it doesn't mean that it's ready. A new report from the U.S. government's NREL, this is the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, and Berkeley Lab finds that 3.6% reduction in fossil fuel generation and up to a $3.9 billion net savings for electric customers in 2013, as well as reduced water use and creation of 200,000 jobs. State-level renewable portfolio standards are important for all of these benefits.
Well, the article mentions that 29 states and Washington, D.C. already have these policies.
Yeah, which
And Vermont being one of them.
Yeah, which, by the way, various organizations are trying very hard to get rid of. They don't want people to save money. They want big government, big business to get it, because they're financed by big business. Yes, go ahead.
To give you a quick idea of how some of these states are approaching this, Hawaii plans to be 100% by 2045.
Yeah,
And they probably will be, because they're importing all of their oil. So
they're
it makes
making
a lot
their
of sense.
electricity from oil.
Well, California is going to be 50% by 2030.
Yes,
That's pretty ambitious.
that's pretty ambitious.
New York is also 50% by 2030. At least they've pledged so.
Yes,
And Vermont, according to this article, is 20% by 2017. But just yesterday, I heard something from a press release from Vermont that they have just upped this. I don't remember the numbers, but they're closer to New York and California.
yeah.
So
And
we're moving along here, guys.
yeah, yep. And you know, it's funny because Governor Shumlin wanted the state to divest, and the state treasurer said that was all
I
part of
heard
that
all
same
that
stuff.
yesterday,
The
yes.
state treasurer said, no, we've got to protect the value of our
investments.
our investments. We're not going to divest. It's a bad idea. Divesting of coal.
Yeah. I was listening to that, and I'm saying, what?
What? The coal, look at what has happened since 2008 in the Dow Jones Coal Index. It's down 97.7%. If we
That's almost 98.
It's almost
Wow.
100. Yeah, and it's lost all of its components except two. And one of those two is
A company who's got natural gas as well.
one of them, yes, that's true, but the other one is Peabody Energy,
Okay.
which has lost 99% of its value, of its stock value.
There's nothing left.
Practically nothing. Again, I'm writing an article for Green Energy Times, and one of the points that I make in there is that if you had decided that instead of putting $105,000 into a down payment on an absolutely stunning house, if you had decided to put it into Peabody Energy at its high in 2008, the value of that
You'd be getting
money
food stamps now.
would be enough to buy you an inexpensive lunch for two at McDonald's. This is what's happening to the coal industry.
Yeah, the coal industry
And
is.
they're squawking that President Obama has put a hit contract out on the industry, but the fact of the matter is they're hurting for other reasons. They don't have much to do with Obama. Anyway, should we move ahead?
We might as well.
Okay. California Governor Jerry Brown is back with his plan to cut petroleum use in California in half by 2030. This is the one part of his energy plan last year
That
that
he
didn't
get.
pass.
Yeah.
Despite its legislative defeat last year by a faction of pro-oil Assembly Democrats, believe it or not, they exist.
Heavily influenced by a big money industry campaign.
That's right. This year things may be different. And a large part of that is because the person who is spearheading that in the legislature in California, spearheading the opposition, has resigned.
Oh,
This
is
is
that
from
so?
the Huffington Post. Yeah, he was
Is this the guy who got involved with some financial?
No, I think he
skullduggery?
just resigned.
Just up and
it was
out. Yeah.
he was
He wanted to
getting.
spend more time with his family.
I think he watched this show and said, "Holy smokes, I'm almost as old as that guy with a beard." So anyway, now we can put on the Hoke County Commissioner's solar farm.
Let's see if I can find it. There it is.
Let's see if we can find it. Okay. When
That's
the
a nice solar farm.
That is. When the Hoke County Commissioners approved the plans for a 200-acre solar farm last week, which is not this, it's a different one, I think, a signal was sent across the state. North Carolina's solar boom isn't over, despite the termination of a generous tax credit that sparked rapid growth over the last decade. This is from the Fayetteville Observer, and that solar farm is the one you see is one that's under construction, or was when the picture was taken.
It's a big one.
That's a big farm, but
and it's the utility is doing it.
the utilities.
Power utilities
That's
doing
right.
it. If you want to know where it's located, they call it Cape Fear.
Cape
And
Fear.
that's right down pretty much where North and South Carolina meet on the Atlantic coast. And the town of Wilmington is there.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Cape Fear was called Cape Fear.
Beautiful beaches, but I don't know why.
You don't know why it's Cape
you're
Fear?
gonna tell me.
I always thought that it was because it keeps getting slammed by hurricanes.
Could be.
But you
Because
know,
it does.
It does.
Beautiful beaches, though.
Yeah. The thing that's interesting about this is here is an energy source that is being installed in a place which keeps getting slammed by hurricanes. Are they worried about it being slammed by hurricanes? No.
It would appear not.
Well,
I don't think they're putting up wind turbines there, though.
No, not wind turbines. But you know, it's interesting. Northern Power Systems had 73 wind turbines that got hit by Hurricane Sandy. They all
Where's this?
in New York,
In New York.
in
Okay.
and other parts of the Northeast, and those wind turbines, when the wind gets to a certain speed, they just
shut off.
automatically shut off.
Yeah.
They furl themselves.
Yeah.
And when the hurricane went away and they sensed that the wind speed was lower, they all turned on again.
Yeah, okay.
No losses.
No losses.
No losses. And
It's all automatic. I mean,
it's all automatic, yeah. And the solar installations in New Jersey had losses from Sandy that were like 1% or something like that. It was very,
That's not
very,
much
very
either.
low. No, it was very, very minor damage. You worry when a tree lands on a PV panel, but aside from that, you know, they were not badly hurt.
Well, looking at PVs like this, these are pretty well flat.
Yep.
They're not elevated much into the air.
Yep.
I would imagine that the PVs that automatically follow the sun on gimbals and all that are
Right.
more susceptible to
Well,
high winds.
actually, they're not.
They're not. huh?
No, because they automatically go level.
Okay.
So the wind is coming
So-
from the side, you see, and so they've
So they've thought
minimized.
about this already.
Absolutely, absolutely. So
Okay, I'll buy
yeah.
that.
Okay, I'm glad you do. Nice to know that you have you have my trust. Oh, all right. We're up to Monday, January 11th. Data compiled from daily reports by California's major grid manager indicate that in 2015, solar came in number one source of renewable energy in the state. Not only did solar beat wind power for the first time, it also topped drought-depleted hydropower. The
Well, yeah, that's
long-standing
taken a
leader-
real hit.
A real hit. KQED. Yeah, it's interesting that Carly Fiorina said that the reason why there was a drought in California was because the green people who opposed hydropower installations had prevented dams from being built.
Yeah, I remember her saying that.
This is a person who's running for president? Really? Is she planning on doing to the United States what she did to Hewlett Packard? Well, I don't know. I worry much less about her than I do about most of the other people running as Republicans. Okay. Our next item.
Yeah, where am I? Oh, I'm on the wrong.
You're on the wrong.
I'm on the wrong
Okay.
mouse.
Here it is. Here it is,
Here we
folks.
go.
Power output from Scottish wind turbines rose to record levels in 2015, producing enough electricity to power 97% of the country's homes. And this is according to a report from WWF Scotland.
World Wrestling Federation, right?
I think that's right. In 6 out of the 12 months, wind supplied more than 100% of Scottish household needs. This is from Scottish Daily Record. And just to clarify things, folks, WWF means World Wildlife Fund.
Oh,
Or it used to. They changed their name to WWF
yeah.
in order to make it sound like they're strong, because they knew that it would confuse people with the World Wrestling Fund. What can I say? Anyway, there it is. I thought that was a nice picture.
Nice picture it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay, our next item is on Tuesday, January 12th, and we are back to Southern California. Equipment on a ridge in Southern California's company's vast Aliso Canyon facility, the site of the gas leak, methane and other pollutants spewing gas from the well in Southern California is invisible to the naked eye, making it hard to comprehend just how large the leak is. Fortunately, California Air Resources Board has been taking periodic measures, and I'm sure Tom is going to have comments on this, that can be used to make some comparisons. This came from the BBC. This is British Broadcasting.
This is the same story we just covered.
It's the one we
same
just
cows
covered.
belching.
Cows belching and cars driving and various things.
1.77 million cows.
1.77 million cows. That's what you need to have to equal this leak. And each one of them belches a pound of methane every day.
330 pounds per year
Of cows, from cows.
from cows.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. Those are average sized cows. That includes small cows. I'm accustomed to, big cows, Holsteins and stuff like that. So anyway,
Yeah, the takeaway says all of this burping has prompted some to ask if eating meat can be so eco-friendly.
a lot of people
Yeah,
have been
try to
talking
look at
about,
that.
yeah, and as a matter of fact, they have recommendations. UN has been recommending that people consider other sources of meat protein. And I will tell you, among the sources that they are considering, two of them that are very interesting are crickets and mealworms. And-
I can kind of figure crickets. I mean, I like shrimp, but mealworms?
Well, I had a friend who went to Thailand.
They eat stuff like that.
Is it still called Thailand?
Yes. Well, I'm not sure.
Myanmar is Burma.
That's Burma. I
Yeah.
think it still is Thailand, but nobody knows who's in charge there now.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, Thailand. He went to Thailand, and I said, "Is the Thai cuisine as good as There was a Thai restaurant near where I lived at the time, and it was just
There's one in
astonishing.
Brattleboro.
There is a Thai restaurant in Brattleboro, and but the one that I used to get food from was called Star of Siam, and it was just south of Boston.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. It was so good. And basically, it wasn't a restaurant. It was a shack that had a kitchen in it that occupied about 80% of the shack, and just enough room to stand there while you were paying for your order. And then there was a single picnic table outside. And almost everybody who got food from that place came in with a car, got the food, and left. And took it home and ate it, and
Okay.
it was amazing. It was so good. But I said, is the pad thai as good in Thailand as it is here in some restaurants here? And he said, it's good some places, not so good some other places. But there is one thing that is always good, no matter where you are in Thailand, and that's fried crickets.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's what he said.
I was there, but it never occurred to me to try fried crickets.
And the mealworms are used for food all over in a whole bunch of different parts of the world. How did we get to this from what's going on in California? I don't know.
Well, let's go to South America.
Let's go to South America. Latin correspondent tells us Latin America is changing. Listen to this, folks. Uruguay gets 94.5% of its energy from renewable resources, including solar. Costa Rica's numbers are even higher. In fact, they have been upwards of 99% from renewable sources almost every month last year.
Hydro's big in South America.
Hydro is big. Brazil and Paraguay get most of their electricity needs from renewables. Well, let's be honest here, okay?
Yeah.
Paraguay gets most of its needs from hydro.
Yeah.
And it produces, what percentage of its needs does it produce using hydro? What do you suppose?
94.5.
No.
No. Well, Paraguay you're talking about.
Paraguay.
Yeah.
Roughly 1,000%.
Okay.
They
so
make a lot of
they make
money
a lot of
selling
money
it to
selling it, yep.
Argentina and Brazil. Okay. But Chile is the solar leader. And that is from Latin correspondent. Should we just power on?
I'm just looking at something right here.
Oh, what's that?
Oh, they're putting in a new solar tower with mirrors.
In
It's
Chile.
expected to generate an impressive 110 megawatts, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So that includes storage.
Yeah, yeah. They've
It's
got
solar thermal.
They've got solar thermal places that generate power 24/7. Yes, that's true. Or at least that's what they say. It's true. Okay. Pretty
Okay.
impressive. Chile has got one of the driest deserts in the world.
Yeah, they do.
In fact, it may be.
Altiplano, is it?
I don't remember
The high
name.
desert. Yeah.
Okay. Wednesday, January 13th. The Walney Wind Farm off the coast of Cumbria, UK, in the Irish Sea. And that is I'm reading the caption for the picture instead of the item. From GCR, we got this item, America's Gathering Offshore Revolution. This is an opinion piece.
We missed one, I think.
Did we miss one? Oh,
Vermont Public Radio here.
that's right. I'm sorry, folks. From Vermont Public Radio. The renewable energy industry is one of the fastest growing sectors in Vermont's economy. But as siting of solar and wind projects generates public outcry in the state's communities, some lawmakers want to give municipalities more control over the fate of the projects.
That's a big debate in Montpelier
That's
right
a big
now.
debate. And I find it infuriating. I find it absolutely infuriating because there's so much bad information that's being distributed in this debate.
And you've got a very small number of very loud voices.
A very small number of very loud voices. In fact,
And they're,
honestly,
they're impressing, influencing legislators.
yeah, let's be clear here. You know, one of the things that they complain about is the human health effect of solar power. I'm sorry, of wind power. Human health effect of wind power.
Yeah.
Okay. And they complain about this so loudly that people who they complain to get to the point where all you've got to do is show them a picture of a wind turbine. Really, you know, and they will start to feel physically ill.
Yeah.
The symptoms are generated by what here? Is it the wind turbine or is it the picture of the wind
Oh,
turbine?
sure. That's what do they call that?
It's a
Nocebo.
nocebo effect.
Nocebo effect.
And you know the whole thing of the human health effects of wind turbines was started to be studied in Australia because that's where the whole thing came up. And the Australian Medical Association started working on this, and I remember I had been alerted to this years ago by a person who was telling me about all the things that were wrong with wind power, which I had been talking about and saying good things about. And she was saying there were terrible things about wind power, and she named a few, of which there were three that I said, you know, I should take this seriously. So I started looking for the human health effects, for the effects on real estate prices, and for the effects on wildlife, specifically birds and bats. But in the human health effects of wind turbines, as I look through these hundreds of articles that I see every day, I started focusing on this kind of thing. And an article came through that said, I'm going to say it was 27% of the wind farms, it might have been 23. It would be 27 and 73, or it would have been 23 and 77. But I think it was 27% of the wind farms in Australia. Medical people said, yes, there are elevated numbers of symptoms near those wind farms.
But they're not created by the wind farm.
Well, no, they didn't say that. They didn't know what was creating them. And they said, however, you know, these are statistically significant elevations in symptoms near these wind farms. The rest of the wind farms show no elevation. And I said, oh, now we're talking about a smoking gun here. We're talking about a situation where you just go in and you start saying, okay, what is different about these?
These wind farms are good. These wind
That's
farms are
right.
bad.
So, you know, the natural things that they looked at. And I started seeing material from their medical association saying, well, we looked at the geology. It's not a difference in geology because that appears to have no effect. We looked at ultrasound, but the amount of ultrasound is basically the same. And as a matter of fact, the ultrasound near wind farms is not any worse than ultrasound near a beach. And they looked at, you know, other things like obvious things like who made the wind turbines, what model of wind turbines they were, how much time does the wind blow, can the people see the wind turbines, all of this stuff. And they finally came down to one thing. The wind farms that were causing human health effects were the wind farms that had been targeted by anti-wind activists. And they had spread through the neighborhoods telling people about how terrible wind turbines were.
Well, it's not the wind turbine that's causing the problem. It's your reaction to the wind turbine.
That's apparently right. Now,
and
what they did was they said, okay, this is something we can test. And they had two groups of people, one of which had watched presentations by anti-wind activists, the other of which had watched presentations by scientists responding to the anti-wind activists. And when they saw those two presentations, they were put together, and the people who were testing them said, I want you to know that right now you're being subjected to infrasound that we have created. And then they did it again. They said, oh, we have to test you again. You're being subjected to this right now. The one time they were actually producing the infrasound, the other time they were lying.
Yeah.
There was no infrasound being produced. So what they found was, regardless of the presence of infrasound, the people who had seen the anti-wind activists' presentations started to develop symptoms when they thought they were being exposed to infrasound.
Yep.
The ones who had seen the scientists' responses had no effect. So what's happening? These people who are saying you got to be scared because wind turbines are being if wind turbines go up, you're going to be sick. They're the ones who are making people sick.
Yeah, well, that's what's happening in parts of Vermont right now.
Right now. And when you go to the business of birds, let's try birds. The latest estimate that I've seen on bird death in the United States says 440,000 birds were killed nationwide by wind turbines in 2012.
That sounds like a lot.
Sounds like a lot. Of course, how many birds were slaughtered by poultry houses?
I don't know, but it's more
It's
than
going to
that.
be in the billions.
Yeah.
All right, but you know, I looked at that figure and I thought, well, that's a bird every 70 seconds or so. And then I realized I had read an article which talked about an inventory at one U.S. energy site where they were counting dead birds. They estimated as carefully as they could, 5,000 birds were killed at that one site.
In how long a period of time?
48 hours.
Wow.
Yep. But not a single one of them was killed by a wind turbine because there wasn't a wind turbine in sight.
What was killing them?
They were flying into smokestacks and cooling towers,
Oh, okay.
you
Yeah,
know.
all right.
And
That happens
basically,
big time in New York City.
well, this happened to be Crystal River.
Yeah.
There were 6 coal-burning generators and 1 nuclear.
Okay.
And that was before the nuclear.
So they're flying into them.
They were flying into all kinds of stuff,
Yeah.
but you know, they fly into buildings. They fly into all kinds of things that people do. When you look at the bird deaths, for every unit of power that will kill one bird from wind turbines, about 35 birds are killed by fossil fuels.
Wow.
And you know, I
A lot
saw
of birds are killed by hunters too.
more are killed by hunters than are killed by wind turbines.
Yeah. And that's like mostly ducks. I mean, they're not
Yeah.
they're not killing sparrows.
No, well, you know, they may kill sparrows accidentally, but I saw another article that came through from a university in Scotland, and I don't remember which one it was, but they said that the populations of birds, seabirds worldwide, had declined 70% since 1960.
Seabirds.
Seabirds,
And
70%.
What's killing them?
Well, one thing was the fact that human beings are overfishing. But you can't take
So
that.
they don't have enough food.
They don't have enough food. But you can't take the overfishing too seriously because the fish that we like are big fish, which eat little fish that compete with seabirds. So we're not really going after the food that the seabirds like. I mean,
Okay.
we don't eat a lot of jellyfish, for example.
And birds do.
Birds eat jellyfish, some of them anyway. Anyway, the population is down 70%, and if you look at the reasons that they ascribe for that population decline, oil spills, other chemical spills from petrochemical plants of one type or another, plastics. A lot of birds are
Yeah,
dying because
that's
they're
true.
eating plastics. Climate change. They're already being killed by climate change in numbers that are fairly high, and other types of environmental damage that are done by various things that the fossil. Basically, what it comes down to is the fossil fuels industry is responsible for a large number of those deaths, a very large number,
So are
perhaps the
cats.
majority. Cats are the biggest killers.
Yeah.
No question about it. Biggest killers. Okay. We've been ranting long enough, perhaps. We should go on from the Walney farm.
We're catching up. This is Wednesday coming up.
That was Wednesday. The Walney farm, did we read Wednesday?
Not yet.
Oh, we didn't read Wednesday yet? America's Gathering Offshore Revolution?
No.
Okay, well, the picture's there. An article in Nature asserts that if the U.S. were to exploit all of its offshore resources, including in more difficult deep water sites, it would be able to generate more than 4,000 gigawatts of electricity, about 4 times more than it needs to power the country. This is from G.
That's a big if, but it's still staggering.
Well, just think about that for a minute. 4,000 gigawatts means about 4,000 nuclear power plants,
Yeah,
roughly.
yeah, roughly.
This is probably about 6,000 large coal generating plants.
Yep.
But the other thing is, we're not talking about onshore,
This is just offshore.
just offshore
But
wind.
we're just, that's what this article's about. We're
Well,
just starting.
Yeah, we're just starting. And actually, if you compare that with onshore,
Yeah.
my recollection was that I did a calculation, some calculations a few years ago about onshore wind. And what I found was that you could get all of our electricity, if you could distribute it, from Texas, wind.
We've talked about that before.
And
Yeah.
the electricity that could be generated in the Midwest would be enough to be a multiple of world demand. We don't have to come even close to using all of those resources. And when you figure that you're going to be using solar, and you're going to be using biogas, and you're going to be using hydro, and you're going to be using geothermal and other things, we've got more things than you can shake a stick at to look into for satisfying our demands.
Well, this one's interesting here because the state approves it.
Mm-hmm.
The local people approve it. Everybody's in favor of this. Of course, they're out in the middle of the ocean there. They're off Montauk Point, Long Island.
Yeah.
And there's no way of getting power to the island other than ferreting in oil. So they've been burning it with diesel engines. Now they're looking at this, and they're not only going to be able to solve their own problem, they're going to be exporting some of it.
This is which island?
Block Island.
Block Island.
That's what this article is about.
Right.
But the article also mentioned Cape Wind,
Yeah.
which so far has been shot down,
Yeah.
mostly because of litigation.
Right.
Litigation,
They've had
and
so
the
many
people who are going to
lawsuits.
buy the power.
And then finally, what happened was they were slowed down so much that the contracts that they had were voided.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
And that's been a huge
And where was
problem.
all of this opposition coming from? Well, a lot of it was coming from a guy named William Koch,
Yeah. What is
who's got a big farm there.
he's got a place on Martha's Vineyard or Nantucket?
It's no, he's on the lower end of Cape Cod.
Okay, but he could see these things from his place that were
Well, yeah,
like 10 miles away or
Yeah,
something.
something like that.
Which means that they're going to look like threads on the.
He called it
horizon.
visual pollution.
Visual pollution. Good
From
for
one of the
him.
biggest polluters in America.
Well, there you go. Actually, William Koch is not one of the Koch brothers who are associated with Koch Industries.
Oh, this is the other one, huh?
This is another one. I think there's
Yeah.
4 of them all
Three or
together.
four, yeah.
Yeah, he got kicked out of that, or he left it, or something happened. I don't know what happened.
When Romney was governor, he was opposing this too.
Yeah, and
There's a lot of political opposition.
there's a lot of political opposition. Anyway, we have one more item here, and then I'm going to explain why it doesn't matter that the sun and wind are intermittent. This is from today's Energy Solutions. China was the world's leading market in 2015, bringing its renewable installed capacity to over 900 gigawatts.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
This according to research and consulting firm Global Data. China led the world in annual capacity additions in solar, biopower, small hydropower, and onshore wind in 2015. And what that's going to do is it's going to get them to a point where they have achieved energy independence, and they're going to be able to compete better than anybody who is still paying money for fuel. Which means
Absolutely.
if we're going to be able to compete with China in the future, we're going to have to get our act together.
Well,
installing.
it's economics, but it's inevitable. It's just a matter of time.
Now, Tom,
Yeah.
I have a little presentation I want to make.
Oh.
It has to do with this thing. Just for anybody who wants to see it. I warned everybody that I was going to do this. That is a computer.
It is, really.
It is.
It really is.
Back in the good old days, and I had a computer, I had one of these things just like this, except that it was half as long when I was in high school. And back, it was exactly this model, except that it was half as long. And back in the good old days, this is a K&E model N4080-5. Mine was actually a slightly different model. It was a 681210. But this is a log duplex trig slide rule, and it's got more numbers on it and little dash lines and things than you could count.
Half of those numbers I didn't even know what they were for.
Well, you know, what do you do with the LL02 scale? I knew what almost all these scales were for.
Time,
the LL scales, I have used them, but anyway, this is what people used to do calculations back in the good old days when the grid was designed.
Never thought of it that
Yeah.
way, but yeah.
This is the kind of
But
computer.
actually, this worked pretty well.
It worked pretty well. Yeah, this little computer, which is a mechanical analog computer, as opposed to this computer, which is a electronic digital computer. This computer was what was used. This type when the initial design was done for Vermont Yankee Nuclear Power Plant.
Yes, absolutely.
And it may have been, I don't know if they used electronic digital computers at Vermont for that design at all. They might not have. It's possible. The design was completed about the time the digital computers started to become available
Ubiquitously available.
Yeah, but the design work at Vermont Yankee was going on when I had my first exposure to a computer, which was the second computer ever installed at a U.S. liberal arts college.
Is that so?
It is. It cost
And this was a
$1.5
huge computer.
huge. It cost $1.5 million.
Huge in size, not
It had
huge in
16
capacity.
kilobytes of core, which cost. They used to say 40 cents, a dollar a bit, but actually it was closer to 40 cents. And
When I was in college, everybody walked around with one of those things
yeah,
strapped on his
absolutely.
belt.
If you were an engineer and you didn't have one of those things, engineering student, and it better be a good one. You know, really, K&E, that was kind of, people thought that was the top. Some people did. Some
Well,
people
they
preferred-
made them in the town that I went to college from.
Oh yeah, really?
Troy, New York.
Try New York, yeah. Well,
they were
anyway,
big they had big
if I want to multiply two numbers, you know, I pick this thing up. I'm going to do 2 times 3. I move the index to 2. I look down from 3. Where is it? There it is, and I get 6. It works. You just witnessed the amount of time that it took to do 2 times 3. In this computer here, you could do 2 times 3 approximately 1.3 billion times a second. And not only that, but you can program things. That thing, you don't add and subtract on it unless you're playing games, because that's not for adding and subtracting. It's for all kinds of other things. You can do multiplication, square roots, you name it. This thing is really, really fast. That thing, you control grid by working out the calculation, picking up the phone and saying, Jake, you got to shut down. That thing, you can control you could probably control an entire grid system using this little device,
I bet you could.
which draws, by the way, 5 watts of power when it's charging its battery. Folks, the sun not shining, the wind not blowing, that's because of an old paradigm that was dependent on this thing. This thing here can control demand along with supply.
Supply.
It can say turn that wind turbine on, turn that wind turbine off.
And it's doing this stuff as we speak.
As we speak. They have virtual power plants in Germany, which is part of the reason why they figured that they don't even need battery backup to get to 70% renewable power in
You know, a
Germany.
virtual power plant is not a real physical power plant.
It could be
it's
this.
one of these guys.
Yeah.
And it's just balancing supply and demand.
That's right. So we're at the end of our hour. And Thank goodness for that. So it's time for us to say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. See you next time. And by the
I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still.